Welcome to the Technology Geek podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Lepani, the Technology Geek, and we are here as we are every week to talk computers, the internet, technology, geek, and pretty much anything else we feel like talking about here on the Technology Geek. And we have a very special guest for you today, since this is our 50th, I can't believe I'm saying this, 50th episode. I am joined by the man from Grolix himself. Randy is on with us today, and we have a nice special for you today. Randy, thank you for joining me today.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So Randy is on the Grolix podcast, and you have a couple other podcasts too, don't you?
Well, right now I do the Grolix podcast, which is at grolixpodcast.com. As your listeners may know from our Grolix Nights episode, that's a lot of like comic book and nerd culture stuff. And then I also do a little bit less regularly. I do EMG Radio, which is like showcases electronic musicians and indie musicians, kind of a network we've got built up online. So that's more of a music show. And that's at emgradio.com. My link's out there.
Yeah, let me tell you, man, that's an awesome show. I've actually done music myself for years. I played in bands and stuff like that, and it's great to see. Years ago, you had to be signed to a label and all that kind of stuff, and nowadays, with the internet being what it is, almost anybody, not anybody, but it's so much easier for musicians to get off the ground.
For sure, it really is. The internet really opened it up. I mean, if you've got the will, and you're resourceful, it takes almost nothing. You need a computer, of course, but it almost costs nothing to release music anymore, so long as you have the music and an internet connection.
Yeah, now and you may know about we talked about music royalties on our last podcast because Art Bell's coming back and he's really struggling with the music royalty fees and stuff like that. But I mean, nowadays I guess so many services are subscription based now, right? I mean,
Sorry.
No, because I mean you have iTunes and stuff like that, but I mean you have Spotify, you have Rhapsody, you have so many subscription based services nowadays.
Now, I had a little bit of experience with those not long ago. I put out an EP, and I actually found a service online that would distribute it to like RDO and Spotify and stuff. And that's good for getting your music out there, but I think they pay like 0.05 of a cent per play. So I mean, the royalties in what at least what an indie artist makes is pretty small, but and then there's also, of course, you can sell the music on iTunes, and there's still the purchase, digital download, purchase the album way, but I don't know how many people are doing that with all the streaming sites,
Yeah, I know. I was reading somewhere that I believe they said that it was a Pandora is almost like impossible to get on unless you're a big name artist.
Oh yeah, Pandora. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not on that. I'm not on Pandora. I'm not sure how to get on that one.
Yeah, but no, you do actually put together a pretty cool music podcast. I actually do listen to it. I like it. It's makes the ride home a little shorter. It's actually pretty cool. Anybody out there that's into any type of music should definitely check it out. It's a good variety show. It's pretty long in length too.
Yeah, usually, I mean, a lot of my shows will go from an hour to 3. But and thank you for. I'm glad you listened to it. That's cool. I'd like to do it more regularly. That's just kind of the one when I get busy, I kind of will let that one slide a little bit. But yeah, and the variety, like a lot of that stuff, that all comes from people that we've kind of networked in the electronic musicians group, and I'm always surprised at the variety of music that comes out of the group. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I actually, believe it or not, once in a blue moon when I have a free second, which is hardly ever, but I like to jump on the Pal Talk room. They have an indie music room, and let me tell you, man, some of those guys, I mean, they're just undiscovered talent, I swear.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, there's I don't know, man. There's I'll come across a lot of like really incredible artists, and they make awesome music, and it's just the thing of like, there's so many voices. How does one stand out? Like, you just kind of, I don't know, like, I guess if they're lucky, they kind of find their niche and rock it there. But yeah, there's a lot of great musicians online. It's just hard to filter through and find them.
So, Randy's joining us today because we're on our 50th episode, which is, we've been doing this about 2 years. We got 50 episodes. How many episodes do you have? Not that I'm trying to knock you. I'm just asking how many episodes you have, just to give people an idea. Because Grawlix, especially guys, it's on. What is it? The first week of every month, is it?
It comes out the first Monday of every month, so it's a monthly show. And then occasionally we'll do special episodes. And this month is actually our 1 year, 1 year birthday or anniversary of doing the podcast, and we're up to 14 episodes. So
Yeah, but you know what? I got to tell you, the Grawlix podcast is one of those things where I'll look down at the calendar and I'm like, oh man, it's the first of the month. Time to listen to Grawlix on the way home. Like, I mean, that it's one of those kind of things. It's a treat. You know what I mean?
uh-huh. Yeah, awesome. Thanks. I appreciate that.
So like I said, one of the reasons why I invited you on the podcast is you are big into geek culture, like myself. Obviously, it's the technology geek, right?
Hmm.
But I guess you had some podcasting questions, I guess, for me, and I figured since it's our 50th episode, for a change, because people usually email me their questions and I answer them on the air. Instead, why don't you, somebody have to ask me questions live on the air?
Yeah, that's exciting because when we had you on our show for that for Grawlix Nights, there were like I could have easily slid into just doing tech questions about podcasts and stuff, but luckily you guys reined me in and reminded me that we're supposed to be talking about comic books.
Come on, it was Nightwing, man. He's the best character of all.
Everyone is Nightwing. Um, yeah, no. One question I had in mind, and this is something I kind of struggle with. I still have yet to figure out a good way to do this is tracking downloads and plays. And I was curious about your. I know I think you host your own files, so you have more control over it. But I was curious about your method for tracking your downloads and your plays.
Well, I use PodPress, so it has built-in statistics, but there are websites out there that allow you to track your downloads. I don't know if you can do it on the platform you're using.
Mm-hmm. Because how I've got it set up right now is it's kind of the shows are kind of like spread across a couple different services. So I think for me, in order to get an accurate read, I'd have to compile like 4 or 5 different numbers from different websites. But yeah, I just don't think we can ever actually get an accurate read. So I was just curious as to how you go about that.
Yeah, we use PodPress, and we actually this way we can track it because I like to know. So I mean, I used to do it that way, and after a while, it was like you turn on the microphone, and I was kind of like, is anybody really listening? So that's why we started tracking it.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah, I don't know if there's any really good. They do have podcast statistics sites out there. I don't know how much. I don't. I think some of them are free, but you'd have to look it up.
Uh, yeah, that was one area, and I guess there's other stuff. Do you want to talk about the equipment, your equipment? You've probably talked about this on the show before. This is just curiosities that I have.
Well, I'm using an Audio Tektronix microphone, which I got for Christmas. We're going right into a Mackie mixer, and then from there it goes into my little. I use GarageBand and all that for because I use a Mac platform just because I like it and I'm comfortable with it. But into my it's kind of like an adapter kind of thing,
Hmm.
and then it goes up into the Mac, and then GarageBand pretty much records the podcast. And I use GarageBand for audio editing.
Nice. Have you ever had I imagine 50 episodes in you have to have. Have you ever lost an episode?
Oh yeah, we I was actually on the road doing a job, and I decided to do the podcast on my Windows laptop, and I used audio. What was I using? Oh, Audacity. And little to say, I went through the whole podcast, and then literally when I got to the end, I hit the save, and it just crashed.
Oh man, yeah, that's the worst. That was on a Windows?
Yep.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, see, have you had that issue on a Mac at all? See, I don't use Macs. I'm on Windows. I'm on PCs. So I don't know if that's something more prone. Windows computers are more prone to that.
I got to tell you, when it comes to the audio aspect of it, because I'm really stickler about audio,
Hmm.
I don't think you can really beat a Mac as far as audio quality because they make the hardware, they make the software. Um, so I think Mac still has the market on audio quality, but I mean Windows. I mean it depends. Windows is I think just if you get the right hardware, and that's the other problem too is it depends on the hardware too. It's not always the software. People all the time blame the hardware. Sometimes it's or blame the software. Sometimes it's the hardware people use. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So, but you guys had a pretty good quality podcast. You do a pretty good job. You actually do audio editing. I mean, I don't. So it's kind of like once it's over, it just goes up. You actually have to edit and all that, which is a lot of work.
It can be tedious. We just as of our recording today, we just released the our 14th episode, and it's over 3 hours long. That was a lot of editing on that thing.
Yeah, I would call Randy like the producer of the producer slash director of Grolix.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, that's definitely. I don't know. I like doing live stuff. We've talked about this a little bit before with Grawlix, because Jesse's a teacher. So like, if one of us slips and says something, uh, I something a little too adult, we got to make sure we have that fail safe. So I go ahead and edit it, and then it's also kind of a matter I want to try to clean it up as much as I can and make it. If I'm going to go ahead and go to the trouble of editing it, I might as well uh, go all the way with it and try to clean it up as best I can and present the best possible show. Um, even still though, there's a lot of areas I could work on. I'm always struggling a little bit with mixing and final the final master, I guess you would say, of each episode, but I try to keep it as professional sounding as possible.
Yeah, we try to. I mean, we mostly do ours live, so it's a little different. Like I don't really bother with the editing. I mean, I probably could, but I guess since we're live all the time, I guess it's I mean, the MP3 sometimes I'll clean up before I throw it up for the podcast, but normally it kind of just is what it is. I hate to say that, but
Well, and that's what's I think so appealing about creating podcasts is, I mean, I listen to your show and it sounds good, like the audio sounds good, and so it's never really an issue. Like it is nice not being bound to, I guess, a certain professional standard, to where if you just want to do a quick and dirty live recording, you got something you want to spit out for people and then throw it up online. It's pretty freeing being able to just do that. That's very cool. So that's part of the appeal of podcasts.
well, I mean, I think a podcast is depending on what somebody wants it to be. I mean, if you want it to be live, that's great. If you like, if you have to edit it. I mean, some people like it both ways. I know Jay Moore and a lot of the big time guys like Stone Cold Steve Austin, they record weeks in advance, and then have somebody and then edit. Where you have like Anthony Cumia or say Joe Rogan that just do it live right off the cusp.
Mm-hmm. I tell you, if I was quicker of wit and a little better spoken, I would never edit a podcast because it really is tedious. I would just let it go as it is. But there's a lot of, like, in my editing process, there's a lot of mumbles and ums and stammerings that I end up cutting out. So part of it is that too.
You just gotta go with it. It takes practice. Like I said, I know you guys like don't. I was joking around with Jesse the other day on Twitter. I don't know if you saw it, but I told him I said I think I'm gonna close because you guys don't really have any official like close. Like I have an official close at the end of the show.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I told him I said you guys should just do the Barb Barker close. Don't forget to control the pet population. Have your pet spayed or neutered. You guys just need some kind of close.
Well, we kind of come up with that the movie quotes idea where we replace a word with Grolix. The issue with that is that it's not the same, so it's not a consistent thing. And then every time we go to record, we'll come up to the end of the show, and then we'll be like, we all just have like a brain freeze on what we're gonna say. It's like, oh, we got to come up with a movie quote or something like that. So we like to make it tricky for ourselves, I think.
So the only other thing that's really neat about your show is, unlike my show where I'm kind of by myself all the time, which is fine with me. I think I can handle carrying a show by myself fairly
Oh,
well. But
you do it well for sure. Yeah, I that's one thing I definitely admire when I listen to your show. You handle the solo show very well, and that's not easy to do.
yeah, well, your show is pretty neat because you have like three people.
It that does make it easier, but I find I still talk an awful lot. um, I try not to talk over them too much. I think between the three of us, I'm used, like I've been doing EMG before, I was doing EMG radio before Grolic, so I'm used to the podcast thing. And actually, when we started, something I had to reel back was the idea of there always has to be sound. There always has to be sound. Like you don't want dead air. And I would find myself filling the sound with information I've already iterate. I'll just reiterate things over and over again. And I found recording with those three, I don't need to because we actually do have the other people that can fill in those spaces and have a conversation. So
Yeah,
it's
see that.
nice.
See that would be weird for me because I'm so used to doing solo. You know what I mean? It's sometimes it's actually like when I'm with a guest, like today, I have to remind myself to dial it back.
I'm trying to do the same right now. Actually, I'm talking a lot. I'm trying to dial it back. This is your show, and I want to say again, thank you for having me on. This is the first time I've been on been a guest on somebody else's show. Super exciting.
No, hey, I'm glad to have you. I appreciate you joining us for the 50th. Big monumental moment for us. I'm glad you're here to join it with us, something special for the guests. So, I guess one of the things, Randy, I wanted to talk to you about, and I have to tell you, it's in my mind. Batman. You're a huge Batman fan,
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah, oh yeah.
Now, I have to ask you, and I'm not gonna lie, I sent a tweet out before the show started. Everybody wants to know, what do you think of Gotham? I gotta ask because everybody wants to know.
Okay, that's a good question. I I am a big Batman fan, um, and I was actually kind of excited for Gotham. I stopped watching around episode 4, and I haven't watched it since. Uh, I don't know what it was about for episode 4 or 5. Um, Eventually, it's on Hulu or something. I'll pick it back up and catch up with it. But I was actually kind of surprised of all the like comic book shows on TV right now. I'm watching Arrow. I'm watching The Flash. Walking Dead, of course. I'm watching all those. But the one show most closely tied to like my favorite superhero, Batman, is the one that I'm just like, I'll just let that one slide. Um, it's not a bad show. I don't know. Like the one thing that pops in my mind when I watch it is the production value seems so high, and at times the writing quality seems so low. It seems so mismatched. It kind of disappoints me a little bit, but I might catch some slack or some flack for saying that. I don't know what the general consensus on the show is.
I mean, let me put it this way: when Arrow comes on, that's a show I have to watch. When The Flash comes on, I have to watch that. Gotham is something I can watch when I have time.
Yeah, yeah. That's kind of how I feel about it.
And I got to tell you, Arrow is, I mean, phenomenal. I mean, that show, I mean, really gave a breath of new life to CW.
Yeah, I will give you that. Arrow definitely did. And I enjoy Arrow too. And actually, I'm a little bit the opposite of you. Between the Arrow and the Flash is the one I have to see. And the Arrow I enjoy, and I keep up on that one. But Arrow, like really kind of I think opened the doors. I don't know that they were expecting season 1 of Arrow to be as popular, but as soon as it hit and it was as popular as it was, then you got the Flash, and then you've got the other networks picking up stuff. Like there's going to be, I think it's CBS is doing a Supergirl show or something like that.
That's correct.
Yeah, so I think Arrow, the popularity of Arrow definitely opened the doors for a whole bunch of other superhero shows, and so hopefully hopefully most of them are as good as Arrow and the Flash are.
Well, Arrow really, I liked Arrow. I do like the Flash. I'm not gonna lie, but I don't know. Arrow to me has that darker aspect of it, which I like. And
Mm-hmm.
and Arrow has really been the found. And my wife will tell you this too. Arrow's been the foundation of everything they've done because they built the Flash off it. They're
Mm-hmm.
building what's his name off it now. They're building Adam. Now is going to be coming out of it. They're doing an Arrow series. They're actually talking about doing a Black Canary series now. So Arrow's been like the building block for everything they've done.
Yeah, and I think one thing that really has set Arrow apart from like past attempts at TV shows is um I mean it's not always totally accurate to the comic books, but just the amount of stuff they will pull from the source material, obscure like weird Batman villains and stuff like the Russian guy in the earlier seasons when Arrow was on the island and he come across him in the boat. The Russian guy was like kind of a obscure Batman villain from back in the day named KG Beast, and just like stuff that stuff that even some of the more like casual comic book readers won't catch, but just the fact that they're willing to pull that stuff out and use it, incorporate it, I think really, I don't know, it's just like they have a respect for the source material, and that actually kind of goes a long way and translates well into the show, I think.
Now I know they've been borrowing a lot of the Batman villains. Now, did you see this past week's episode with Ra's al Ghul, where they're saying now that he wants Arrow to be the next Ra's al Ghul? I think that's kind of a neat twist. I'm waiting to see how that's going to go.
You know, on our show, Jesse kept making a point. He enjoys Arrow, but his point was he found it interesting that, and I think maybe we talked about this while you were on our show. It seems like they really kind of wanted to make Batman, but they had the rights to Arrow, so they made it Arrow. You know what I mean? I think that's it's interesting. I don't mind I don't mind that at all. But I think that's kind of what lends to Arrow being a darker show. And yeah, that's interesting. I actually have not watched the latest episode. I haven't hit Hulu up to catch up on those shows yet.
Okay, well,
I think I'm one episode behind.
spoiler alert.
Oh, no worries. No worries.
See, that's what happens when you're a guest on a program. You end up getting your show spoiled on you.
Well, you know what? And I should have known as soon as we started talking about you having me on. I should have known, been like, oh, I need to watch Arrow. I need to make sure I'm caught up because I should have figured it would have come up.
Tonight, by the way, is also The Following returns. I'm sure my wife's going to hit me up to watch that as well. That's another one of those shows. I watch it. It's a good show, but it's one of those shows. If it sits on the DVR for a week or so, it's not that big of a deal.
What show?
The Following.
Oh, I have not watched that at all.
Yeah, it actually is a really good show. It's better than most garbage that's on TV. But the other thing I wanted to ask you about, so we've been my friend Howard and we've both been talking about this. I told him I was having I've called you the Batman expert on the show.
Okay, sure.
Your thoughts on the on where they went with Batman with Azrael, and Batman the graphic novel, if you know what I'm talking about. I'm sure you probably do.
Yeah, I do know what you're talking about, but actually I'm totally going to lose my Batman expert cred right here. There are large periods of time in Batman history that I'm not familiar with. I just recently started reading through all the what is it, the Nightfall and the Breaking of the Bat, that whole thing.
Correct.
I didn't read it when I was younger. I didn't really get a chance to read a lot of comics when I was younger. I was into them, but I didn't have a lot of access to them. So I am currently part way through reading the whole Azrael thing and the Breaking of the Bat Bane thing. I'm still Nightfall. Is that what it's called?
I believe so. Yeah.
I'm reading that. I was just reading one of the detective comics the other day. So my knowledge is a little sketchy there, and I have lost my Batman cred.
Now, what about your thoughts on the whole, R.I.P. Remember when they did the R.I.P. Alfred series and all that type of stuff? Did you familiar with that at all?
The R.I.P. Alfred, I am not familiar. See, I think you're the Batman expert here.
See, I spend too much time reading. They had the whole bit on Alfred and stuff like that. So that was something, that was another portion I picked up on. Yeah, I think I spend too much time reading. So let me ask you. So so
Sorry.
let, yeah, so let me ask you a question. What Batman moment in the comics, not the movies, what
Hmm.
Batman in your mind sticks out? Like when you think Batman, that thought is the first one that pops into your mind.
Oh man. Okay, that's a good question. Um,
I'll give you an example. Like when I think Nightwing, the first thing that comes to my mind is that whole section with when he became Batman. That's what sticks out in my mind. When they fought against the sorry about that, my iPhone went off. Um, and it's linked to my computer. Like that's what comes to my mind. I think about the Red Hood. I think about all that kind of stuff. What jumps out in your mind as the first Batman event? A big one that jumps out at you.
oh man, that is a good question. It's hard to say because chronologically, I've read a lot of it out of order. I hear Game of Thrones.
Yeah, that would be my ringtone.
That is a good
Uh,
ringtone. Um, yeah, that's. Well, let me think. Let me think on that for just a second. Uh, I, when you phrase it, Batman event. Um, it's so hard to say because, well, I'm having a hard time separating out like what would be an appropriate Batman event. Some of my favorite, like I guess some of the more memorable Batman stuff that sticks out to me would be uh, like Year One. Year One is was excellent. That's one of my favorite Batman stories because it's so. Uh, I'm gonna brain freeze now just because I noticed your mic went mute. It's so I guess moody, but it's also I like that one because it's a smaller scale type Batman story. I mean, it's the origin story, but it's a smaller scale. It's not big, huge, flashy Batman. So I kind of like that. Yeah, I'm kind of that's it's hard to say. I've been reading so many of like the big Batman events. Um, all the like the new 52 stuff they just flood it with big events, so when you throw it like out like that, recently, uh like on our recent episode we talked about Batman Zero Year, another origin take, but that's got big flashy crazy Batman stuff happening. Death of the family stuff. You know what? Okay, I've been talking for a while now, but I'm going to backtrack here because Death of the Family reminded me. Death in the Family, one of my favorite Batman moments. Now, Death in the Family is when it was Jason Todd. It was the death of Jason Todd as Robin. One of my favorite moments is actually in the fourth issue of that, um, where Batman is dressed up as Bruce. I mean, he's not dressed up. He's not dressed up. He's Bruce Wayne, and the Joker is talking. Somehow the Joker weaseled his way into being an ambassador for this foreign country, so that he had diplomatic immunity when he come over here. And there's this excellent moment. I used to have it posted as my like Facebook banner or whatever, where it's like six panels, and it's just Bruce Wayne and the Joker. It's like the same expression in each panel, but it's just like them looking each other, and I just love the way they had it laid out. So I don't know. That's a great Batman moment where he's not even dressed up as Batman. But I'm gonna turn it over to you. I feel like I'm rambling horribly.
you're doing fine. You're the guest, so ramble away. Um,
No, you got to reel me in. It's all right.
oh man. Hold on. Let me put you on hold
Yeah,
for 1 second, okay?
no problem.
Yeah, Randy, bear with me for 1 second, okay? I just got
No
an
worries.
important phone call.
Okay, that's fine.
I'll be editing this part out. Don't worry, the dead air part. Hold on,
That's fine. If you want to edit back and get some of my rambles, that's fine too.
hold on 1 second. Hey, Randy, you there?
I'm here.
Yeah, sorry about that, man. That was a bit of an emergency. I had to take care of it. No big deal. Um, sorry about that.
No problem.
That's the problem with doing something live.
Oh yeah.
Luckily, I have all week to edit it. Um, so you had so we're talking about Batman and stuff like that. So I guess the question is, I guess another question I'm going to ask you: who do you think was the best Robin?
um, I can't say for sure best Robin, and that's kind of a way of getting around future arguments, I'm sure. But one of my favorite Robins, and some people definitely disagree with me, but one of my favorite Robins is Damien. As much of a jerk as that kid is, and as much as I hated him when I first started reading him in the when he first come into the comics, I kind of like Damien because I like the dynamic it creates in different situations. Uh, like we had discussed it a little bit before. When Dick was Batman, and I don't think you like the dynamic it created, but I like the dynamic of um, Dick Grayson being a more upbeat Batman, but then you've got Robin being the moody, broody one. So I kind of appreciated that. Um, but there's something to be said for Tim Drake too, because he really, of all the Robins, he fit the hyper intelligent detective type bill a lot closer to Batman than any of the other Robins seem to.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. And he seems to really have branched out more than any of them. Well, I shouldn't say that. I mean, you have obviously Jason Todd and those guys, but yeah, he seemed to really branch out more than most anyway.
Yeah, for sure.
So, what's your upcoming episode of Grolix going to talk about? By the way, since we were talking about Grolix before.
Like in next month's episode or this recent episode?
Well, this recent episode and then next month. Well, next we have a poll up right for next month.
Yeah, we do. We have a poll. Yeah, this this is a good opportunity to get people to vote on it. Every month we do a poll. It's on the grolixpodcast.com website. It's usually in the right sidebar. But basically, every month we put up a poll of graphic novels or a certain run of a series that people can vote on, and that's what we'll read the next month and discuss. So our poll list segment we do every month, and that's totally on, that's whatever people vote on is what we'll read. So I like that because it's a way of, for one, a lot of the books that are on my list of shame, stuff I should have read but I haven't, end up on there, so it gives me an excuse and a good reason to read them. And it also exposes us to stuff that we wouldn't have thought about or we wouldn't have looked into on our own. I believe we read a while ago. We read Mouse, which is supposed to be, it is a fantastic work, and I've heard of it many times, but I don't know that I would have gotten around to reading it on my own. But that won on the poll list, so we read it, and I'm really glad we did because it is a crazy, fantastic book. Have you ever read Mouse by chance?
No, I have not.
It's so crazy. It's based on a true story of a Holocaust survivor. It's written and illustrated by his son. So you kind of get present day, at least present day when the book was wrote. Present day where it's the cartoonist and his dad, and you get their go-between, but then there's also flashbacks to his dad's, I guess, harrowing journey through World War II and concentration camps. I mean, it's pretty heavy, but it's a really good story. And like I said, I wouldn't have read it on my own, but I'm glad I did read it. So that's part of what's cool about the poll list. But and then of course we've read some Batman and some other stuff. Whatever people want to vote on. Excuse me. Unfortunately, at this point, we don't get that many votes, so I have a feeling it's because I will vote on it every so often. I have a feeling I'm doing most of the voting, so I'm really excited to get more external input on that, so it can be more like what the concept is, where it's what other people want us to read.
That is pretty neat. So you have some insight from Jesse, and who's the woman that's on the podcast? I don't know her name. I apologize.
Melanie. Yep.
Yes, you guys they have you guys have a really good dynamic, I guess, on the show. I like it. Like I said, it's that show that you're it's like, oh, it's the first of the month. Gotta see if Grolix is up. You have one of those kind of podcasts. We're every week, so it's a little bit different than you guys, because you guys get that. So it's not random, but it's once a month. It's that that treat. It's one of those kind of things.
Keep it rare. Keep them coming back. We don't want to over dilute the pool or whatever.
Yeah, I know, right? So well, that's what's really cool about it. But let me ask you, what were, I mean, I should probably could go to the website and get it, but what were some other topics on the podcast, comic book topics that you guys had talked about on the show since it was your year anniversary?
Well, this episode, we kind of stuck to the usual format,
Not like to the extremely random format that I threw in the one show I was on there.
No. And that's kind of why we have the Grolix Nights. I mean, they're just bonus episodes of the regular podcast. We just kind of rebranded them because they do usually, it's when we'll have guests on, or we just feel like talking about random stuff. So yeah, those episodes will definitely go more random. But those are great. I really like the random episodes.
We were hashtagging Uncle Jesse. You don't get much more random than that.
It's true. Oh, it was crazy. That was a fun episode, though. My favorite thing about all the episodes is when the conversation just spirals out of control into just strange areas, and worst case scenario, it degrades into random references and stuff that doesn't make any sense, but it makes us laugh. But on the other hand, for our regular episodes, we do have the regular segments we go to, so that helps to keep us on track.
Yeah, I'm just gonna cut you off for 1 minute so we can do a quick break here. So the technologygeek.org, we're sponsored. We have tons of great sponsors. We ask you to join the Tech Geek Club, which is our computer geek club. We meet we meet online once a month, and as being part of our geek club, you as well get access to over 25 sponsors. All the money we make on the Tech Geek Club goes to keeping the site up and goes to keeping it free. It's $10, and I can guarantee you, with the great sponsors we have there from IT Pro TV and a lot of the other great sponsors, you will get your $10 back the very first time you use any of the sponsors. We have Edison Iron just joined on there. They're a wonderful company that makes batteries for doing everything from ham radio to any type of setup with your computer. All that stuff, survival straps, Maxpedition bags, everything. We have tons of coupons up there, tons of great values for you, and that's at the Tech Geek Club, as well as you get exclusive access to the forums and modding ability as well. And that's the Tech Geek Club, and you can go to the technologygeek.org and click on the members tab, and it'll bring you there, and you can give us $10. It's a one-shot deal, and helps you support the show and get you a bunch of free coupons, and that's at thetechnologygeek.org. Sorry about that, Randy. Got to pay the bills, you know?
No, I love it. That's great. That's great. You got sponsors. That's fantastic.
Yeah, So we took a quick commercial break. We should be like, I always wanted to be like, just for fun one time, do one of those radio shows like Art Bell, like, okay, we're at the bottom of the hour, we're gonna go to break now. Stay on the line. You know what I'm talking about? Like those old school radio. I don't know if you ever listen to any old school radio guys. I do, because I love I'm one of those people that I have to listen to Art Bell and those guys, because there's an art form there that, unfortunately, due to podcasting, is being lost. Like, if you ever, those guys do 4 to 5 hour shows a day. Like, you know what I'm trying to say?
Mm-hmm, for sure.
And like you listen to Art Bell, he's like, okay, we're at the bottom of the hour, we gotta go to break. They're so smooth about like getting the guests to stop talking. Like, if you know what I'm talking, kind of know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a lost art. You know what I mean? Those broadcasting guys. Or if you ever listen to any of the old DJs, how they rev the song up, like, you know what I'm talking about with revving the song up? Well, they rev the song up. It's pretty cool. But yeah, we got some sponsors up there. Iron Edison just joined us. They're a green company. They make green batteries for like radios and even for computers. Then we have survival straps up there. We have IT Pro TV. We have, oh my goodness, the list just goes on and on and on. And when people join our members club, they get all the coupons, and then too, they get exclusive access to our forums as well.
That's awesome. So, yeah, you've got the members club and all that. Do you have? I thought you had. Oh, you have forums. Do you get to do a lot of like interaction with like listeners and stuff like that then?
On the forums, we do once in a while. We do get quite a few. Mostly the forums are where people ask me questions and I answer them on the show. Some people like to discuss the podcast. They like to, not unfortunately, I shouldn't say that, but I'm a big wrestling fan. I talk about wrestling a lot on the show, so people discuss wrestling on the forums, stuff like that. There are actually a lot of people have fun on them, and the members club basically is just our way of keeping the site up and going, because we have to have designated hosting because we use too much bandwidth.
There was another thing about your show I wanted to ask you about. I've noticed you've been putting up like your most recent episode on SoundCloud, and I haven't got to listen to your last episode just yet. But the 2 episodes before, oddly enough, like I'll come across it while I'm on SoundCloud, and that's where I've been listening to your show. I kind of like how you've been updating it that way. You know what I mean?
Well, I think the thing is, iTunes is huge, and a lot of the other mediums are huge as well. But I really think that people don't go to Technology Geek. I shouldn't say this, but people don't go to technologygeek.org and sit on the website for 50 minutes and listen to a show. Mm-hmm. They go to whatever app they have. So if they're on iHeartRadio app, they'll look us up. If they're on SoundCloud, they'll look us up. If they're in iTunes, they'll look us up. Like I think the days of sitting on one website streaming for a couple hours just isn't unless you're YouTube or one of those. I don't think that happens anymore. I think people just use the app.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're totally right because for the most part, your show is one of the few that I will listen to while I'm on my computer. Like I said, usually I'll be on like SoundCloud listening to music, and I'll come across it, and I'll be like, oh yeah, the new episode, and I'll listen to it there. But most shows I listen to while I'm out and about or in the car. So yeah, the iTunes and Stitcher and all that are TuneIn. Yep. We're not on TuneIn, or maybe we are. I don't know. I don't remember where we're all at yet. But yeah, those are definitely, I think, where most people consume their shows.
Yeah, and I like SoundCloud. I think SoundCloud is actually pretty cool, and I think there's a lot of great podcasts on SoundCloud too.
I thought about going that route, but their pricing isn't terrible, but it's a little pricey. And with podcasts, I mean, I guess ours wouldn't be too bad since we're once a month, but they go by your minutes, how long the audio is you're uploading. And if you're doing podcasts, you can eat up your allotted minutes pretty quick.
Like me, you're looking at what, an hour, a little more than an hour sometimes. So you're looking at what, we go through what, 4 hours. That's a lot of minutes.
Yeah, for sure. And they're one of the I mean, it's odd that they do it that way and not by space, but I kind of understand since they started off, and they're mostly music-based stuff, but they've opened up to podcasts and stuff, which I think is really smart of them. But yeah, I just wanted to mention the SoundCloud thing because oddly enough, like I said, I don't listen to a lot of podcasts on there, but your last 2 episodes that's where I listen to them, so.
No, nothing wrong with that. That's what it's there for.
It's handy that it's been up there.
Well, and that's the thing too. And that's one reason why we might have dedicated hosting is because, and that's one of the things we found out was that like our audio, we get the majority of our people streaming off of the site, but not from our site, from other places like TuneIn, iHeart. Because those places don't host your podcast; they just pull your stream in.
Mm-hmm.
Like SoundCloud's unique in that. I don't know if you know that or not. SoundCloud's really unique in that because most big companies pull your stream. SoundCloud actually goes the extra mile and says, "Hey, we're going to host the MP3."
Which is sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, which is super handy if you're running a podcast and you don't have another host or a dedicated server. It's nice that SoundCloud does have that service for podcasters now, because that's where you can just host it there, and then you've got the built-in community and the built-in players. So that's a nice aspect to the SoundCloud hosting.
Well, I do like SoundCloud, and say when we started about a couple years ago, it was the hosting wasn't really available yet at that time.
Mm-mm.
That's something, actually, believe it or not, hosting podcasts is something that's really taken off over the last couple of years. So it's kind of cool. I like it. I think it's really cool. I like the interactive part of SoundCloud because it's very interactive. Like, you can stay up there for hours and just listen to stuff. It's a huge time waster. Not waste of time, but you know what I'm trying to say.
Well, one thing I kind of, because I don't want to pay for the SoundCloud hosting, so I'm not going to move over to there. We've been uploading clips as kind of promo clips from the show, from each episode up there. But one thing I really like that I'm kind of envious of in terms of how SoundCloud handles the audio files is the community, where people can comment on not just comment on the audio file, but comment time-stamped comment. They can comment in a certain space at a certain spot, and it'll show up as their comment was at this time. So if there's something in the show that they're commenting on specifically, you know where it's at, and I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah, that is really awesome. I'm a little envious of that as well. But you know the interesting thing about SoundCloud is too, we only put our most recent episode up because that's, we're very limited on space because we have the free account.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, even that, I mean, they have tons of podcast groups where you can share out your podcast with other people, and in these groups. And I think the interactive part is really, really cool.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
So the
Uh,
question is, will you be listening to this podcast since you're on it?
yeah, well, like I said, I haven't listened to your most recent one, but it's about music royalties and podcasts, and I'm super interested in that. So I'll be listening to your last episode as well. But yeah, definitely, I'll be listening to this until I start rambling and it's cringeworthy.
Well, I have to tell you, I haven't really. I had to pause there for a minute due to a little emergency on the house, which happens once in a while when you're a homeowner. But um, I have not edited a podcast in a while in a GarageBand. I'm gonna have to sit here for a little while before Friday and figure out how to edit that huge chunk of no sound.
Oh yeah, yeah. Uh, I'm just gonna throw it out there. If you just want to cut that chunk of no sound out, send it over to me, and I'll do it in like 2 seconds.
Are you
That's
serious?
one. Oh yeah, for sure.
Well,
That's one Oh, go ahead.
how would we share it? I have to upload it to something.
Do you have Dropbox or something?
Yeah, I have. Well, I can. Yeah, I have Dropbox. I can do that.
Yeah, that'd be super easy.
Would you mind?
Not at all.
See, this is where having friends in the podcasting industry helps. You
Mm-hmm.
know, but yeah. So what do we know? We're two nerds. We're sitting here on a Monday night podcasting for fun. You know, I mean,
I spent the last like 2 evenings editing a podcast. It's my hobby. It's what I do.
you know what? I got to tell you funny. I listen to Leo Laporte's podcast once in a while. Not all of them because he's got so many on his podcast network. But I'll tell you a funny story. He was joking around the other day. Somebody's talking about working for a living. He's like, you consider this work? He goes, we're two middle-aged men that spend our lives podcasting to make money.
Oh man. Yeah, yeah, for sure.
I mean, he's got, 20 or 30 podcasts on the Twit network now. It's amazing. I mean, he's really come a long way with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely am envy those guys that they can make that their job because how magnificent would that be? If I didn't have to do my regular day job, I could put out so much content. It would be great. But whatever. I find time. I find time.
Yeah. So, I know. Well, speaking of people online, I guess I should get your take on this because, what about that guy? What's his name? The one that was on South Park. The one that he's like the number one watched YouTube channel on YouTube. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do. I do. Smosh? Is it Smosh?
What the heck? I'm trying to think what his name is. He's got the number one. You know what I'm talking about, though, right?
Yeah, I do. I do. No, PewDiePie.
PewDiePie. That's it. PewDiePie.
I think it used to be Smosh. Used to be like the number one.
Yeah,
Uh,
Smosh was the Minecraft guy.
okay, okay, yeah. Um, I can't stand him. I've seen a little bit of. I can't stand him. I've seen a little bit of a couple of his videos, and I was like, this is the number one guy. Like, no, it drives me nuts.
Yeah, I
I
couldn't
mean,
believe that either. Like, all he does is point the camera at himself when he's playing, like, Minecraft or Call of Duty, whatever. I mean, like, I mean, not trying to toot our own horse, but what we do, like, broadcasting to me, broadcasting is an art. Okay? Like, I mean, when you look at guys like Howard Stern, and I know he's I'm not a Stern fan, but, or Opie and Anthony and Art Bell, I mean, those guys they're legends. They carry a show for 4 hours, have to do commercials, guests, and all. And here he is, like a huge icon, and all he's doing is pointing a camera at himself. Like I have no respect for that. I hate to say that, but it's the way I feel. I'm entitled to my opinion because it's my show.
well, I will give him props, so to speak, and some of the other Let's Play video channels for being able to pull in the views and the money that they pull in doing those videos because they figured out how to make massive amounts of money off playing video games. All they do is play video games and talk random nonsense about it. Which I guess isn't too far off what I do most of the time, talking random nonsense. But, but I don't find the guy funny. That's my number one issue with him. I think the things he says are goofy, and it's just not amusing. It kind of makes me roll my eyes a bit. But I guess I don't know. I guess they figured it out because I don't know how accurate it is, but I heard a rough estimate of how much that guy pulls in a year, and it's insane. Uh, but I don't know. Yeah, it's yeah. I don't like the guy. I don't think he's funny. That's my main issue. I don't think he's funny. Uh, I've come across other channels that do Let's Play videos where it's people playing a game and they'll talk and that's pretty much all they do. And some of them are entertaining because they can be funny, but most of them are just not. There's just no like real substance there to the entertainment, and yeah, so yeah. Hey, they figured it out. That they figured out how to play video games for a living, so I guess I give them that. But I definitely see your point of view too, because I don't know. I'm just not a fan of the guy, and I just don't think it's that entertaining.
Well, when you start talking about like people like Jenna Marbles and stuff like that, I mean, she actually has to create entertaining videos. She's obviously a comedian. She works for Sirius XM as well. So I respect her to a certain degree because she's actually creating content.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there's a lot of people on YouTube doing it right, so to speak. Um, but they're creating interesting content and they're doing it independently. And the channels that get big enough to like sustain like to where the content sustains making more content, that's you know that I admire most. That's awesome because that's totally what I would like to do. That I'd like to be able to create more content and afford to do so based on the other content where you just have the content feeding into itself. But I sometimes worry about the concept of whether we're just commenting on stuff or if we're actually creating content. And I think with some of the podcasts it can, I don't know, I guess that's getting to a weird a weird debate over podcasts, but I don't know. I like to think we add something to the conversation as opposed to just making sounds over it. You know what I mean?
Well, I tend to think that podcasting, making a video is not like podcasting. We're doing long form talk radio here for the most part. Like we're not just making a 5-minute video. In our defense.
Mm-hmm. Well, no, yeah, and I do see that as like you mentioned. It's an art form. Old time radio is an art form, which is kind of lost in podcasts. But podcast has it's like a different format, not just necessarily like the actual technical. It's a different format, but the actual like what a podcast consists of, the dialogue and the talking. I think there is an art to that, and you listen to certain podcasts and it's obvious, and some podcasts really offer like different takes on what a podcast can be. Like, do you ever listen to stuff like what is it? Welcome to Night Vale?
No, I haven't.
Oh man, that one's really interesting. It's kind of like that's kind of a bridge between radio, podcast, and old time audio play type radio, where it's fictional, but it's as if you're listening to this small town public radio, but it's also got all this like weird horror and sci-fi stuff going on, and it's fictional. Um, but also other podcast creators doing old time radio, old time audio plays in podcast form, and I think that's really interesting too. I don't know.
Do you have any off the top of your head you could think of?
The Thrilling Adventure Hour is a pretty popular one. I think that's on the Nerdist network. Welcome to Night Vale, like I said, is it's like that, but it's also got that public radio theme to it. I think that's on. I think the website for that's something like commonplacebooks.com or something strange like that. And there's some other ones. I'm having trouble thinking of it offhand. Well, recently, did you talk about that? I haven't listened to it, but Serial or whatever. There was this podcast. It was produced by people that had to do with NPR, so like it had kind of I believe it had like a production behind it. But Serial like blew up. It was like a limited series podcast, and it's been one of the most heavily downloaded podcasts of all time. And that was about like investigating uh, old murder trial or something like that. But I don't know. There's within the podcast format, I've noticed people are like, it's really branching out, and it seems like a lot of people are experimenting. So that's pretty cool too. I don't know how we got here or what the point of it is, but I will ramble if you
I'll
let
make
me.
sure I send this. I will send this over to you for editing, so you can make yourself sound like you want to sound.
Oh yay! because yeah, because because uh, I I find when I edit my shows, like I'll edit some of Jesse a little bit, I'll edit Melanie a little bit, and I edit myself heavily.
Uh,
I, that's the risk, you know. I mean, if I'm cutting it, of course I'm gonna like work on myself more. I guess I don't know.
oh, okay. We are way off the reservation right
Thank
now.
thank you. Let's reel it in.
Okay.
I will take over your show, and it will not make any sense.
Now that I just lost half my audience. Oh man, this is a time when old school radio. Let's go to the phones on line one. No, just
Oh man, they would have cut to commercial break long ago.
there was a guy I remember on an old Coast to Coast AM episode where he just kept talking and talking and talking, and all you heard was Art Bell dump, like go down to go dump to a commercial. They came back from commercial, and the guy was still talking.
Wow.
And Art Bell is just like, I'm trying to get a word in edgewise here. But
Well, here. I'm gonna hand the reins over to you. Steer it. Where do we go from here?
no, I appreciate it, man. If you're gonna do the editing for me, I appreciate that. Maybe you can, as long as you can do it before, because this is gonna drop on Friday, so I
Yeah,
appreciate
no worries. I can do that.
So, but hey, man, I want to, like I said, well, how long? We've actually been talking a while here. Why do we always seem like when me and you get together, we could just talk forever on these shows?
Because we ramble about stuff, and then at the end we're like, "What happened? Where are we? How long have we been here?"
You kidding me, dude? I threw the run sheet out about a page and a half ago.
Oh man, you had a run sheet?
Yeah, I tried to, but forget it.
Oh, I feel bad.
Don't worry about it.
if I ever come on again, I will keep it. If you ever allow me on your show again, I will try to keep it a little bit more on track.
Hey, no, man, believe me, it was a pleasure to have somebody else on here for a change, better than me talking to myself. Believe me.
Well, and I know as soon as we end the show, I'm gonna think of all these technology related things. I'll be like, oh, so like I could have mentioned this or asked about that. But that's how it always goes.
My audience will be like, this is his 50th episode. What happened? He's losing it. Oh, man. But hey, Ray, I want to thank you, first of all, for coming on today and spending my 50th with me. It's a big moment for me. We're not a huge podcast, but we do have quite a few listeners. So 50 to me is a big mark.
Oh, yeah, I'm honored. I'm honored to be on your 50th episode.
And like I said, I want to thank everybody. It's Randy over at the. Well, go ahead. You do your own plug before we close out.
You can hear me in a slightly less rambly form, along with some co-hosts, so they help to keep me online. As we talk about comic books, webcomics, and nerd culture at grawlixpodcast.com. That's GRAWLIX, grawlixpodcast.com. I also somewhat infrequently do a independent electronic music themed show called EMG Radio, also at emgradio.com. I've been fortunate with those URLs. I'm all over the place. I'm on Twitter at Randall Sylvie. It's easy to find me. Go to any one of those sites, and I kind of like link everything to everything. So I'm out there.
Hey, Randy, I want to thank you again for coming on the show, spending our 50th with us. I want to thank everybody for listening, and we will see you next week on the Technology Geek podcast. Thank you very much.